So, what are the most common fears first home buyers usually have?
For me, the biggest barrier in anyone starting this journey is the deposit. As you know, New Zealand properties they aren't cheap, so you have to invest a lot of money from your own side, and not always you have the luxury of saving thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Anybody start looking at their first home, what do you recommend should be the first initial step?
I'm gonna sound really biased here,
Yeah.
but I believe talking to a mortgage advisor
Mm-hmm.
is really the first step.
And is it better to wait for a perfect market or start exploring options now? What is your take on the current market situation? Because that is more important because people are willing to buy a house now. So what is your take on? Should they straight away get into it, wait for the perfect time, or what do you think about the interest rate, all those things?
Get into it straight away.
Okay.
And I'm telling it based on my own experience.
First home buying is the real pleasure what you get. That's where you get to raise your own family. And the biggest hurdle in this process is getting your finances together. That's why we have a finance expert, Mr. Gaurav Chutani, on our podcast today. And he's going to help us with all the queries which you might have when you are making the first precious and most dearest investment of your life, which is your first home. So let's decode this with our finance expert, and we'll ask all the burning questions which you might be thinking that how you are going to navigate in this entire process of getting your finances, choosing the right property, and dealing with the banks, because that's where you are going to get the most of the funding from. So welcome, Gaurav.
Thanks, Saket. Thanks for having me over.
You're welcome. Pleasure is all ours to get to know more about you. How would you enlighten us with this whole process of buying the first home? But before we begin into that, I would want to know about your own personal journey, that how you got into this finance industry, what your background is, and how you came into this profession.
Sure. So I come from a small town back in India. Moderate financial situation. Since childhood, we've been told to work hard and grow up the ladder. But there was always a part of me who wanted to do more. And when I saw people around me who were doing really well without having those fancy degrees with them, what is it that they are doing which I'm not able to do? And that really prompted me to look into this direction. When I bought my first home, we got the funding from the bank. Everything was smooth. We sailed through. But there was a part of me who wanted to know more, wanted to dig deeper, wanted to figure out how certain things are done in certain ways. And that's where I saw an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to share. Because a lot of first home buyers in this part of the world come with big dreams. They want their next home to be their dream home, but they get stuck not knowing where to start and how to navigate through all that ambiguity regarding so many things in the first home buying journey. And that's where I saw a sense of purpose because I was doing fairly well in my IT job. You could say I was at the peak of my career. I was leading a team of 15 people.
Wow.
In one of the biggest program ever to be run in New Zealand. But deep down, there was still a desire to do something
Bigger.
more,
Yeah.
something different,
Yeah.
something meaningful that in some ways changes the life of individuals you see day in day out. And that really prompted me to look into this direction. And as they say, rest is history.
Great, great. So this purpose is going to serve a lot of people in this journey. So let's start with the questions which every home buyer have in their head. And so what should be the first step? So even before anybody start looking at their first home, what do you recommend should be the first initial step when they should focus? Okay, this is something which they need to have sorted even before stepping a foot out of their door.
I'm going to sound really biased here,
Yeah.
but I believe talking to a mortgage advisor is really the first step. You come across a lot of myths and statements, talking to your friends, and going out, dealing with real estate agents,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of build that knowledge in your head without knowing the nuances behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Where we come into the picture is help you in that end-to-end journey. So the very first thing you should do as a first home buyer is come and talk to us, mortgage advisors.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have to be me. You can talk to any you associate with, but please do start from there.
Great. So, why do you think buying property in New Zealand is such a big milestone for people? And especially when the property market is not doing so great. Like in today's time, the property is down from their peak of 2022. So, what do you suggest to the people who are planning to buy their first home now?
Well, there's a saying in our industry that the best time to buy a house was yesterday,
Yeah.
and the next best time is today.
Okay.
Look, as individuals, as families, we always want something that we can call our own,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's our kids, whether it's our assets, or whether it's, as I said, just sense of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, your house is probably the biggest validation of where you've come from and
Mm-hmm.
how you have succeeded through all those challenges and reached a point where you can just go home, relax, enjoy time with your family, not having to worry about how the next inspection is going to be,
Yeah.
and whether you would be living in this house in 3 months time, 6 months time. So I think it's just a natural human psychology where
Sense of security.
exactly.
Yeah. Great. So, what are the most common fears first home buyers usually have? Do you have any take on that? Because a lot of people, there are so many compliances which they need to take care of. There might be a fear of bank loan rejection. There might be a fear of do they have adequate income for the kind of house they want to buy. So, do you want to touch upon that?
Yeah, sure. To me, the biggest barrier in anyone starting this journey is the deposit.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, New Zealand properties, they aren't cheap. So you have to invest a lot of money from your own side,
Mm-hmm.
and not always you have the luxury of saving hundreds of thousands
Thousands
of
of dollars.
dollars.
Yeah.
But it can be done with as little as 5% deposit,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where we come into the picture. As I alluded to before making any sort of pre-assumptions and stopping yourself from progressing further, come
Thinking
and talk
about
to
that
us.
you don't have enough deposits. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And what are some misconception people have before speaking to mortgage advisor? Because they might be thinking, okay, he's going to pitch this bank or this rate or things like that. So, what are the misconception people have regarding the mortgage advisory?
A lot of people come to us and ask, how much are you going to charge us?
Yeah,
And to that, my answer is nothing.
yeah.
And I've seen a lot of different kind of reactions to that,
Mm-hmm.
but majority of the time it comes as a surprise because they go, why you want to help us? So I just want to make it clear that we get paid by the banks
Yeah.
if we are settling a deal via a primary bank, and for most of the first home buyers, that's probably where your deal is gonna go. So we don't charge any of the first home buyers.
Mm-hmm.
We are there to help them and guide them throughout that journey.
Does income alone decide how much someone can borrow, or there are other nitty-gritties as well associated with it, or it's just that income?
Income does play a part.
Yeah.
You need to have a stable income,
Mm-hmm.
whether that's salaried employment or your business.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be able to showcase that you can make X amount every month on consistent basis.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not to say that if your income is really, really good, you're
Mm-hmm.
going to get approved for sure. You also need to keep a tab on your liabilities, such as your car loans, your personal loans, and more specifically, your credit history.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not good with your repayments,
Mm-hmm.
whether that's as simple as making power bills
Mm-hmm.
and you keep on missing them on month basis, banks are gonna wanting to know why you're doing that. Is this just an oversight or you actually not good with your repayments, and that's where a lot of deals can get stuck.
I have a question here. So somebody like first home buyers are basically people who have recently got their residency. So if somebody was on a student visa or say work visa and they miss their payments for the telephone bill or electricity bill, does that going to affect them buying their first home or how much they can get approved from the bank?
It could play a part,
Mm.
but as I said, that's where we come into the picture.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times banks want to know the reason behind that.
Mm-hmm.
If it is a one-off payment, we can always provide an explanation for that.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as that explanation is legit, from my personal experience, most banks are okay to lend,
Mm-hmm.
overlooking one-off missed payments. To give you an example, I had a client who got stuck overseas during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't come back for 3 years, lost their job. They had roughly 20 grand in debts, personal loans, and
Mm-hmm.
credit cards,
Mm-hmm.
and they couldn't even access the statement. So they were willing to pay the amount back, but they just didn't know where to start.
Okay.
And when they came back, they went into a payment arrangement where they agreed with the lender that they're going to pay the whole amount back within
Mm-hmm.
12 months.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for a primary lender, i.e., a bank, that could be a concern. But as long as your explanation is
Valid and justified.
valid
Yeah.
and you can mitigate that via other means such as deposit and good solid income,
Mm-hmm.
we can make it work.
Okay, perfect. And do you think that spending habits affect home loan approvals? Somebody is spending a lot of money in casino or spending a lot of money in liquor shop, will that going to affect their approval rates?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it depends on how the banks are feeling about
Yeah.
the business overall.
Yeah.
There was a time when even dog food was scrutinized,
Really?
to give you an example.
Yeah.
But these days, most banks are a little bit more comfortable, hearing your side of the story. So a lot of these expenses are considered discretionary expenses,
Mm-hmm.
which basically means that you're spending that money because you feel like you can, but you don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as you're willing to stop those expenses,
Mm-hmm.
we can present that explanation to the bank, and more often than not, it does get accepted.
Perfect. Is it true that buyers always need 20% deposit?
Not true at all.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest misconception.
Mhm.
Yes, if you have 20%, then most banks would offer you the best pricing or the cashback available in the industry.
Yeah.
But you can start with as little as 5%.
Okay.
In fact, there are provisions through Kenga Aura and some of the primary banks where you get pretty much the same rates and cashback even with 5% as long as you meet certain criterias.
Okay. So, is it at certain pockets of New Zealand or it is valid throughout New Zealand? So, somebody wants to buy a house in Invercargill. So, the same rules apply there as well?
Yes, but it has to be an owner-occupied property. So you can't really say that you want to buy an investment property with 5%.
Mhm.
That's not gonna
So,
stick.
investment properties majorly is your second or third home, but not the primary home. So, that has to, like, you have to live there. Is
Yes,
it?
so
Yeah.
primary home or owner-occupied, the definition of that is the house you're currently living in.
So,
You may have 50 other properties under your portfolio,
yeah.
but it's the house you're currently living in. And if you own that house, we call that owner-occupied or primary residence.
First home buyers. And how long does the pre-approval process usually take? So somebody who wants to buy a house, say somebody has shortlisted a house, and so how long will the whole arranging the finance process takes?
Usually, from experience, it takes between 3 to 10 working days.
Is that so? As little as 3 to 10 working days? So,
Yes, but mind you, it totally depends on the quality of the documentation the clients provide to us. So, a lot of times that can be you know, a bottleneck,
Mm-hmm.
because if you're providing documents to us in piecemeal fashion,
Mm-hmm.
uh, we have to work really, really hard to connect all the dots and wait for the subsequent documents set to come through.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only time we can present it for it to be approved, in a reasonable time frame. Otherwise, we spend a lot of time going back and forth with the assessors inside the bank,
Mm-hmm.
where they ask a lot of questions. We provide them with the explanation. They come back with more, and it doesn't help the clients, doesn't help us, doesn't help the assessor. So my strong advice to all the home buyers reaching out to us is to make sure that you spend good 1 hour working through all the documentation we've asked for, provide it to us in a nice structured way, and it really helps us immensely in getting the application approved. So I wanted to give you an example. I've got deals which took roughly 3 months to get approved
Mm-hmm.
because they were just complex.
Yeah.
But then there were deals which got approved within 10 minutes of the assessor picking it up. And
Right.
I actually
Yeah.
got a feedback from them saying the notes were so crisp and clear that you made our life easier. We didn't have to look, through anything else. We just read your notes and everything was clean for us to get it approved. So that's how it rolls.
Great. So, first home buyer would also want to know, let's say, what are the documents which they need to present at the initial stage, and what can be the potential document which will be followed once they have submitted those initial documents. So, do you want to throw some light on that as well?
So usually it's your evidence of the income.
Mm-hmm.
If you're an employee, that generally means last three pay slips.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean whether you get paid weekly or monthly. Three last pay slips
Mm-hmm.
suffice. But if you have been working overtime or you're getting bonus from your employer, then we generally ask you to provide last 2 years IID summary. For business owners, we require last 2 years financials
Mm-hmm.
just so that we can showcase to the lender that you're running a stable business and your income is more or less stable.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from that, it's your bank statements. Last 90 days is what we ask for. Your credit card statements, your personal loans, any other sort of liability, and proof of deposit. These days, I'm seeing a lot of first-time buyers um, relying on gifts from friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to be able to evidence that. So we require a letter of confirmation
Mm-hmm.
from whosoever is gifting you that sum, that they would not be asking for that money later.
Later on, yeah. Great. And what can negatively affect someone's pre-approval chances?
Your credit history,
Yeah.
that's first and foremost requirement for me
Mm-hmm.
personally, because before presenting the deal to the bank, I would like to make sure that your account conduct is good.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned upon earlier, there are circumstances where you may miss a repayment here and there, but if you have been doing it on a consistent basis, then there's something fundamentally wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So credit history is really, really important, especially if you are a first home buyer wanting to buy it with 10% deposit or 5% deposit. Banks do scrutinize that a lot.
Great. So, what parts of the home buying process do people usually find the most stressful?
A lot of things can go wrong. I was actually in an auction last weekend, and my clients, they've actually become good friends now.
Yeah.
They were really, really keen to buy that house, but um, unfortunately for them, the house got sold at a much higher price.
Yeah.
Um, as first home buyers, I think it stresses you out a lot because you don't know how to navigate through building inspection, review, how to deal with a lawyer or what to expect from a lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
uh, what to expect from the bank in terms of approval,
Mm-hmm.
pre-approval. A lot of questions come through where they say, "Hey, I can see the letter of approval, but it only says we're gonna be put on 6% interest rate, for example." So we have to explain it to them that that's a floating rate the banks usually provide the letter of offer
Mm-hmm.
with. When we reach the stage where we are settling the deal, at that time we can lock at a fixed rate, which is generally lower than the floating rates in the market.
So, I want to take you a little bit back in the journey. So let's suppose somebody is awaiting their residency and they are pretty sure that they are going to get their residency sorted and they want to buy a house. They might have like 10, 15, 20% deposit with them. So what should they avoid before applying for a mortgage?
First thing they should do is not lose their job.
Yeah.
uh,
Great.
make sure that they are set nicely
Yeah.
towards a path of getting residency.
Yeah.
They should also be mindful of their discretionary expenses, as we touched upon,
Yeah.
gambling
Yeah.
or spending their money elsewhere. But by and large, it just comes down to their overall profile and account conduct. So, from a work visa holder to a resident, the biggest thing that differentiates them is, the bank wanting to know how stable their employment is and whether they can graduate from work visa to a resident in near future. As long as they see that as a conclusive evidence and everything else is good from a profile point of view, then again we had examples where the applications got approved for work visa holders as well.
Okay, nice. So, what is one thing you wish more first home buyers understand?
Get rid of misconceptions.
Okay.
There are a lot of misconceptions. I call them whiskey talks. You meet your friends over the weekend, they tell you random things,
Yep.
and property has been a popular topic among groups of people socializing.
Yep.
What we try and tell them is don't look at it in black and white. There's a lot of opportunities in the market, and you cannot restrict yourself to a certain properties, because unfortunately in New Zealand and especially in Auckland, you're probably not going to find a good family home under 700 750K range.
Yeah.
So if you're hell-bent on buying a house with land, freehold, no flooding, no housing, I get it, these are all genuine concerns.
Yeah.
But one way or another, you need to have an open mind and probably look at how you can still get onto the ladder
Mm-hmm.
and then eventually grow from there into your dream home. Because it's very rare in New Zealand market that your first home is your dream home.
Mm-hmm.
That's a stepping stone towards the financial wealth.
Yeah.
So you should invest smartly and not get enrolled into emotions, and certainly not bogged yourself down just by hearing certain statements that these are the only source of truth. Keep an open mind and talk to us.
Perfect. And is it better to wait for a perfect market or start exploring options now?
To
What
me,
is your take on the current market situation? Because that is more important because people are willing to buy a house now. So, what is your take on should they straight away get into it, wait for the perfect time, or what do you think about the interest rate, all those things?
get into it straight away.
Okay.
And I'm telling it based on my own example, my
Mhm.
own experience. We bought our family home just before COVID,
Mhm.
and everyone was saying, "Have you lost it? The property market is going to crash 30%, and you'll probably lose your deposit
Yeah.
next day." But we needed a house to live in. Our family was growing, and we really wanted to move out of our house at that stage,
Mhm.
and probably get into a bigger space. We made that move, and within 1 year, the property market just shot up like crazy.
Mhm.
Um, in this market specifically, from experience, I can say that there've been a shortage of good family homes.
Mhm.
There's a lot of inventory for townhouses,
Yeah.
which doesn't have a lot of appetite apparently, but for family homes, there's still demand. I've been to 3 auctions in the last 2 weeks,
Mhm.
and all three of them have been sold close to CV or more than the CV value. So, as first home buyers, my advice would be that don't wait for the perfect opportunity to arise. This is the market to get in and explore your options, because there's a lot of options available. But just choosing the right option is where we recommend you talk to us.
That was quite informative. Anything you want to add to like last thought about people who are watching this and they want to like how do they going to navigate in their future and the journey of buying their first home?
Look, as I said, buying your first home, it can be stressful.
Mhm.
There are a lot of things that you need to navigate through, and quite often you don't know where to start. Whom do you lean against? And that's where I personally raise my hand and say, "Don't worry, come and talk to me. I can pretty much help you with all the basics of how you can, purchase your dream home or your first home." Uh, in the end, we do have to rely and appreciate the contributions from other professionals like
Mhm.
solicitors, building inspectors, realtors. But to me, financial advisor is the one who really, glues it together for them and makes it.
So do you have the whole team put together for first home buyers?
Yes, we do work with our preferred partners,
Mhm.
people who we can rely on now blindly after having gone through a lot of shortlisting process.
Yeah.
So we can put you in touch with the right realtors, right solicitors, and the building inspectors as well.
Great. So, guys, this was Gaurav with us, giving you all that financial advice, how to navigate through the challenges in the current situation, how to prepare and plan better
For your first home buying. So thank you, Gaurav, for sharing all this valuable knowledge. And if you guys want to get in touch with Gaurav, there is a link in the description. Just fill out that form and get in touch with Gaurav, and he'll make sure that you get your dream home as soon as you get your first home. And that might be your dream home as well. So looking forward for your connect through the link in the description. We shall see you in our next video. Till the time, you guys take care of yourself. Bye bye.
Thanks, Saket.